GST is here and we are all wrapping our heads around it, be it as a business or as a consumer. But consumption of a house or buying a house is perhaps the largest commitment of your life savings. It's also an asset which gets ready in stages, and that complicates the impact of GST, which will differ depending on the stage your housing unit is at. That's precisely the reason why we have such disparate statements coming. Minister of Housing Venkaiah Naidu, who says GST will bring down home prices and benefits should be passed on to the buyers. And there are veterans in the industry like Niranjan Hiranandani who say GST is inflationary. So let's open Urban Reality today for your questions on GST and home buying selling. And let's welcome the specialists who will answer them. Niranjan Hiranandani himself, Chairman Hiranandani Group, with us today. Also with us, Prashanth Bhat, partner BMR Advisors, and Abhishek Jain, tax partner EY India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us today. Lots of interesting questions, so hope you're all ready to take them. Okay, let's start this show with a question that we have from Twitter. Raghu, who again tweeted this morning and said, where is my answer? What if I buy a second-hand flat, which is a used flat? Will there be any impact because of GST? Prashanth, take this question.
There will be absolutely no impact of GST because a sale of used flats or second-hand flats or completed flats, even when sold by a developer, is outside the GST and only stamp duty is paid. And especially as an individual, if you're buying and selling completed units, there's absolutely no GST to be paid.
All right. Mr. Hiranandani, would you agree to that, that if you're selling as a builder, completed, ready to move in flat, there is no levy of GST at all from the developer?
That's right. I think Prashanth is 100% correct that there is no duty, but the price differential will happen as far as the developer is concerned because he will not get any input credit on a completed flat. So obviously the price of a completion flat may be slightly higher than a flat under construction. That could be an issue because at that point of time, whatever is the input credit on the flat, he would have to absorb it completely. So while there is no GST actually leviable under the circumstances, there is a possibility that the price of the flat will be increased to that extent because this is especially for future flats, not in terms which are ready, being ready just now. But in the future, this is likely to happen.
Right now, sir, a lot of developers are sitting on ready-to-move-in inventory. No price impact, no GST. Are we in agreement on that?
Are you asking me? The answer to me is that
yes.
For the present flats, absolutely correct. No GST, no price inflation, nothing will happen. But for future flats, we will have to see.
All right, we'll come to that. Okay, very interesting tweet which came in from Advocate Sareen. He says, what happens to delayed flats or buyers stuck in delayed flats for 7 years, 10 years? They've already paid service tax at 30% on part of their flat which is ready. BSP, GST on 67% rate, increased by 6%. Now, these buyers will again have to pay GST on the remaining portion. What is the buyer's fault? But is it true that there is no let out for buyers stuck in delayed projects? Prashanth?
No, so I don't, while the concern is valid, because that's a concern that everyone shares, saying now that the GST rates are increased, so does the buyer have to shell out more in terms of taxes? But what the government has done, and I go back to the circular, again, it depends on project to project and what level of construction is complete and what is undertaken under the GST regime. But if there's a delay in the project, that obviously means that the construction is not yet fully completed. So for all the construction that happens under the GST regime, because of the delay, the developer gets credit. And the hope and the government has come out with clarifications or instructions saying this credit that he gets under the current regime should be able to offset the incremental taxes, if any. So my immediate reaction, because it's a variable thing, depends on project to project, but my immediate reaction is that if you're paying 6% tax and contracted I don't think the developer will have any outflow more than that already budgeted 6% taxes.
Abhishek, corroborate what Prashanth has told us, that I think the maximum concern is for people stuck in delayed projects or in between projects which are not yet completed. Their query is, if a builder comes to us and tells us that because of GST there's an increase in price for the rest of their installments, is that a valid demand or a not valid demand?
So Manisha, it will depend on the stage of construction. So whatever payments you will make, the buyer will make after July 1, that will attract a 12% GST, which under the current regime was about 4.5% service tax and about a 1% VAT under the composition scheme. So the rate of course goes up by about 6-7%. But at the same time, as Prashanth also rightly said, whatever material the builder will be using on or after July 1, the builder would be entitled to credit of VAT and excise duty on all the material that he is using, which should pretty much set off this additional tax cost of 6-7%. The important aspect is that the builder should pass on the benefit of that credit availability to the buyer and only then charge the additional GST of 12% which has come about. So that is very important that the builder should do that. And in fact, the government in a press release has clearly mandated under the anti-profiteering provisions that though after July 1 they will charge 12%, they are mandated under law to pass on the benefit of input credits.
All right. So are you saying it's price neutral? I think you got to, as a tax expert, just give us a simple message. It should be price neutral, right? Because for the rest of the construction which he will present the buyer with a bill, he will get input credits, isn't it?
May not be price neutral one-to-one in all situations. Suppose a building is already 90% constructed, but the payment of 50% still remains. Since the building is already constructed to the extent of 90%, the material on which the builder will get credit may not be as much, in which case the additional GST, the tax differential of about 7%, if the credit is less than that 7%, then to that extent the price increase would be there. So it will depend on project to project and what stage the project is at. But as a safe statement to make, it's not an increase of 7% straight away. It is 7% minus the input credits that the builder would get.
In this scenario with sales not picking up, I don't think the builders are likely to increase prices if they don't have to or don't need to. Mr. Hiranandani, would you agree with that? Because that late stage projects are the ones where developers are having a big problem.
No, I've already made a statement before, and obviously many people don't agree with me, but it is definitely for ongoing flats. In the case of the affordable segment, it's almost coming to 3% inflationary, and about 5% in the case of luxury high-end flats is the escalation which is likely to take place. But many disagree with me in view of the fact, but what the other speaker did speak just now, he said that it will depend on circumstances to the extent to which the input credit has come in or not going to come in, because they've already built that amount of it. So obviously it will vary, but I think it will be around 3.5% at least.
So you're saying not 7%. Abhishek says not the entire 7%. You're saying that 3 to 3.5%,
it won't
especially
be the
late
entirety,
stage projects.
because there will be some extent of input credit. Because there will be a part of the input credit would be available, but not fully.
Fair enough. So late stage projects, 80 to 90% completed. Both the tax expert and the developers are saying that there could be 3 to 3.5% increase in that last demand note, not the entire cost of the house. So please don't get hassled about that. It's just the last demand note. We've got a caller as well now, Sayukta Singh. Sayukta, go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to know, does affordable housing get exempted from GST? Is there a price definition or a size definition that, I can go by?
Abhishek, you want to take that question? Affordable housing out of GST purview? And if it is, then what is actually the parameter of affordable housing? Is it size? Is it price? What is it?
One of the houses schemes that is covered for GST exemption is under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And if you're buying a house under that, then it will be exempt from GST. But mind you, it's only the builder who will not charge you GST, but any material or services that the builder has purchased for construction of that house, that will in any case have GST. So if the builder is buying cement, steel, other bathroom fittings, etc., that will still have a GST, which will be inbuilt into the cost of this price that the builder will give you.
Okay. So, Mr. Hiranandani, then are we saying that all homes which fall under PMAY, which is of course defined by size, are actually likely to get cheaper post GST?
I don't see that because of GST it will become cheaper, because that input tax has been increased on all the materials which are coming into the inputs of it. So overall the price may increase, though you may not be able to separately charge GST in that sense of the term. So that because that input credit which otherwise would be allowed to be adjusted is not going to be there. So in reality there is, as I mentioned earlier, if you look at an overall GST effect on housing, about 3.5%, irrespective of whether you do affordable housing or otherwise, because of the input credit not being available, you will have to increase the overall price, though not charge GST separately.
No, I didn't get that point, but we'll have to take a quick short break and come back. How can all houses have a 3% increase in prices post GST? We'll have to come back and just get that answer again from the tax experts. You're watching a special edition of Urban Reality and GST. Stay with us.